Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Barbershop Conversations. Listen, this is your boy, Ned White. I'm here. My partner, who's going to be with me, is logging on momentarily. He was running into some family issues, but will be chiming in any moment now. So I just wanted to get in here real early with you guys and just really let you guys know that I'm excited about what we are doing and what is about to come down the tube when it comes to what's happening with us here at Royalty Ministry Network, right? We have a lot of stuff happening. We are looking forward to this 2022 year to really just blow the hinges off the door. So I hope you guys are ready to rock with us. I hope you guys are excited about the content that we've been putting out, because I'm telling you, what's coming down the tube after this is definitely going to, we always say we pull the covers off. Yeah, we about to completely remove the covers and just let it be what it is. So I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to it. And this new year, man, has got some great stuff coming your way. Today is our opportunity to really start to talk about this topic, which I'm going to just basically talk about it, call it men and intimacy in all its facets, whether it be with our significant others and wives, whether it be with our church, our family, our kids, whatever it is, there are levels to intimacy, and we're going to break those down moving forward through the month of December, going into the new year, because I want us to start off this new year fresh, revived, and just invigorated with new life. And so we're going to speak to these areas that have always been taboo, that have been dark, secret sides of our walk, and really just pull it back so we can really say to each other, yo, I'm ready for what 2022's got for me, because it's going to be epic. So I'm hoping that you guys are ready for the ride. Hope you guys are excited about it. Today's first up off the bat is men and the struggles with sex, right? I said it. I'm putting it out there. We're going to talk about it because nobody really wants to hear it. Especially there's going to be some brothers out here going to look at me like, yo, I don't have a problem. I'm good. Well, I appreciate you lying to yourself. But today we're going to really get into it, because all of us, especially when you get to be a little bit older like myself, us brothers who are in that 45 to 60 age range, man, listen, we aren't what we used to be. We aren't the young men that we once were. We're not 17, 18 years old where we can just, get up and go and keep it moving. And, I'm reminded even in my own walk, the days where I remember working a 10, 12-hour day, hitting the club right after work, pretty much, come home, shower, change, hit the club, party all night long, and then do the same thing the next day. My bounce back ain't there like that, y'all. I'm going to be real with you. You send me to the club tonight, I'm not showing up to work tomorrow. It's just that real. So, our bodies go through changes. We deal with some stuff, man, that, we don't really like to discuss, but we need to discuss. And so today we're going to talk about it. I got a partner who's coming on, as I stated momentarily. Mancho Edu is his name. He and his wife have a phenomenal program where they work with women and men about relationship building and how to maintain and sustain a healthy relationship. And I'm excited about him coming to the table and sharing some of the things that he might be able to enlighten us about as we move forward. So I'm pumped up. I can't wait. And we're going to, like I said, removing the covers. So as he's getting ready, I'm sorry, he's texting me as we speak because he's logging in to the system. As you know, we keep it real around here, and we don't hold and pull no punches. So I like to keep you guys abreast of what's going on. So he is logging on as we speak. Like I said, we're going to get into it. I want to just get started, to be real with you. I'm fired up, but I want to give my brother an opportunity to get in so he can be a part of the mix, and I'm not just monopolizing the entire time, because this is a subject that we can all talk about and really get deep into on any given day or any given moment. So while I'm waiting on him to hit the screen, know that we've got some stuff happening. I'm going to talk a little bit about real quick some of the stuff that's happening. We have, launching into the new year, a new initiative off of our Barbershop Conversations. We get the chance to talk about a lot of different subject areas, subject matter. I'm excited about the stuff that we've shared and talked about and brought to the table. One of my biggest concerns is making sure that the content that we put out is purposeful, right? And that it has real meaning and it's meat that you can chew on. The reality of that is, even after I've given you the meat to chew on, I need to be able to give you the tools to cut the meat up, right? And so moving forward into this new year, we're putting together a format called the DIY Man, right? This is where we're going to break down the stuff that we talk about into smaller bites so that you can really get into it. I don't want to just surface you guys. I don't want to just sit around and we talk about stuff and, the light bulb goes on, but you still don't know how to navigate through the room. We want to make sure that you have the tools, the opportunity, the understanding on how to navigate through these facets of life that we're in and dealing with as men, as African-American men, as men of color of all types. I want you to be healed. I want you to be delivered. I want you to be fulfilled in who you are and what you're supposed to be, your purpose. In order to really do that, sometimes we got to really lay out the tools so that you know what you're doing. So anticipate that coming up in the new year, the DIY Man initiative will be launched, and we'll be pushing that initiative to help brothers really understand how to start building the better you. You know what I mean? Building that better you. One of the other facets that'll spin off of that, which I'm hoping we can get going at the same time, is going to be the building the better brand. One of the things that I'm an adamant advocate for is getting folks to understand that you are your brand, right? There is no you, out there beyond the scope unless you create it. I see my brothers on here. Good to see you, Doc.
Yes, yes, yes. Good to be seen.
Hey, listen, I was just doing a quick little shout out about what's coming up in the new year from this platform, but
Okay.
I'm going to digress and we'll do it at the end. I'll finish what I'm saying because I don't want to take away from our time and our opportunity, man, to share, build, and hopefully help some brothers heal
Yes,
some of
yes,
the
yes.
stuff that they struggle with, even if they don't realize that they're struggling.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I'm gonna tell. They know who I am. Give us a quick, elevator spiel, man. Who am I on the line with, bro? Give them who
Okay,
you are,
so
what you do.
I am Mansho Edu, one half of the Acoma House Initiative. And the Acoma House Initiative is an internationally based counseling and consulting firm. And we do individual, couples, family. We are known most as couples. We do a culturally based style of relationship education therapy for couples and families, but we work with individuals. We're two married therapists. We've been married for 21 years, and we're known most around the world as the creators of Acoma Day, a culturally based alternative to Valentine's Day that is being celebrated in 16 countries around the world by all Black people of all walks of life. But I'm just the love doctor. That's who I am.
That's what I'm liking.
That's
Black
that.
Love Doctor. The
Yes,
Black
yes,
Love
yes. The
Doctor.
Black Love Doctor. That's really what it is.
That's what it is. I ain't
So
mad at you. I ain't mad at you, bro.
I hear
Listen,
you.
man, I celebrate you, bro, and the missus. Give her my
Yes,
love.
yes, 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 yes.
That
We
I
we we
definitely
we
appreciate.
was coming from the college. My wife is also a part-time professor, so we was coming from the college. Things got a little bit longer than it's college life.
I hear that. I hear that. Listen,
And
I
I
appreciate
was
it.
like, oh snap! Somebody in the background, like, I got 2 minutes to get here. So forgive
Yeah,
me
yeah.
for
That's
for
my
my late
accountability,
arrival,
folks.
but it's
Get
all
out the
love.
way.
We got a long-standing bond, 30 years of love,
Yeah,
respect, friendship. So
absolutely,
I'm just really
absolutely,
honored
bro.
to be here, man.
Well, listen, man, I'm honored that you took the time out of your busy schedule, man, to sit with us for a minute, man, on this platform and just talk to the brothers who watch and listen, and hopefully enlighten some folks today.
Yes,
You know what I
yes,
mean?
absolutely.
Just to give everybody an overview of how this moment came about. I've reached out to my brother, wow, almost a year ago,
Hmm.
when I first started with this conversation of barbershop conversations and getting this off the road as best of whatever it was going. I honestly didn't even know what it was going to turn into, but
Right.
you were one of the first cats I reached out to because I was like, listen, I know his heart, I know his mind, I know his spirit, And I'd love to be able to make sure that he's a part of this in some form or fashion. And our schedules just was all over the place, and we
Yes,
never got a chance to connect. And so then
yes.
I
Well,
reached out to him.
I was all the way in. We've worked together on so many projects, and we already see. We know from experience that the cloth that we're cut from, and I'm just so proud of everything you're doing, and I got a chance to watch the episode with your son, which I loved, and it's just an honor because now our sons are even friends and know each other, and so it's just a beautiful thing. But I what you're doing is amazing. It's so needed. We need cajillion more of us out here helping. So everybody get involved.
That's an amen moment if we was in the church. Like
yes,
amen.
Yes, absolutely. Church, say amen.
So again, this initiative or this conversation stemmed from you and I just dialoguing the other night on the phone about what are some of the stuff as a parent we struggle with? What are some of the issues that go with us brothers as we're walking our walk? And this whole dialogue around, intimacy from a man's perspective, and how we process our inability to perform sometimes in the bedroom, our inability to communicate, what we're dealing with, and how that creates extra tension in our relationships with our significant others. And so, from that, I was like, yo, dude, we got to take this to the platform, because you and I we talked for almost an hour about it,
absolutely,
just candidly.
Absolutely.
And so I was like, yo, there's no way that we're the only two cats on the planet who have this scope of thinking or dealing with this experience. And I thought, like, listen, let's bring it to where it needs to be, and that's publicly and on the table. One of the things that, as I said to you before, we live by this mantra of we pulling the covers off. So literally, we're in the bedroom and we're gonna pull the covers off and be like, "Yo, dude, let's talk about why."
I love that.
let's talk about why we're where we are.
Yeah, I love that metaphor.
So listen, I'm gonna jump right into our first question, man.
Okay.
And the first question is, what causes men to struggle with sex, and why is it hard for us to talk about it?
Excellent question. So there's a couple of things, but I like to, in the style of men's processing, I like to be direct. One of the key things is emotional unfitness or emotional sickness, right? And so emotional sickness leads to the thing that causes great sex, a problem with the thing that causes great sex, and that's intimacy. So we should always, when we talk about sex, be talking about intimacy, but we oftentimes do not equate the two. Men, and especially Black men, have learned through our ma'afa and our cultural trauma to separate things, to box things.
We box it.
We could we put something in a box. We could somebody and be like, see you on the street, like, what's your name again? Like, do I know you? Because we have learned as a survival technique in a crazy time to separate our behavior from the emotional impact of that behavior. This is a way psychologically that we survive, but it actually works against us when it comes to mating with our women, raising our children a lot of times, because those endeavors require an emotional fitness that a lot of men have been conditioned to not deal with in order to survive. So it becomes a great conundrum. Here are my woman and my children looking for an emotionally fit man. I've learned to emotionally hide or to separate myself. In fact, when you talk to a lot of men, they demonize emotion.
Absolutely.
So they will say stuff like this, and I'm sure you heard it: take emotion out of it. You know what I mean? You're not going to get anywhere if you're
have all your emotions caught up in it. Why we just can't talk logically? Why we gotta be emotional?
I laugh at that. And you and I were having conversations 5-6 years ago when I'm like, and I always say to my clients, like, So when you have sex, is that intellectual? When you reach a climax, is that an
Right.
intellectual
Are you right? Are you
or is
thinking
that
you hit every
yeah?
bullet point? Like,
Or do you feel that? Do you feel that? And if you feel that and it's pleasurable, then this shows we don't want to kill emotion. What we want to do is balance it with our rationale. We don't want
absolutely.
to demonize it. We want to uplift it and make sure that there's a balance between how we're emotionally showing up and then how we're psychologically processing that emotion. And my
Correct.
last thing on that I would say is that the interesting things about
Hmm.
emotion starts in the mind.
Yes.
So emotion is actually a neurological reaction to stimulus and phenomena. It is actually
Right.
it is a mental process. But we've learned through socialization that emotionality, that's that women stuff, and we don't deal with that. We just get the job done or whatever. But again, it works against us because to perform over a long period of time, back to your original question, sexually at a high level, there has to be um, a copacetic emotional reality in that relationship,
Yeah.
meaning that I'm able to focus, open up emotionally. And when you're young, sexuality can be an acrobatic act.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because
Instantaneous.
your body is leading. The more you mature, it's your mind and heart that leads the act. When your
Correct.
mind and heart is not in alignment, then your body
Won't
can't
react.
do it can't react.
Yeah.
And so this is why erectile dysfunction is a multi-billion-dollar industry, but they never really get to the root cause is
Right.
psychological emotional disconnect.
So
And
hold on.
so
I'm gonna stop you right there for a
along with
second, Adrian. I'm gonna
yeah,
stop you there for a second because you headed in the direction that I want us to go into eventually.
okay,
We'll get to that, but I want
okay,
to bounce back to something you said in the very beginning of your conversation that for me was like the light bulb moment that I'm aware of, but I want to make sure that the listeners are caught it as well. And you talked about the fact of us being emotionally fit,
yes,
right? And so when you say that, what pops into my mind is that means that I can condition my emotions to react in a way that's healthy and beneficial to me. And I think
absolutely,
a lot of our brothers don't get that, and we don't exercise how to balance our emotions. And so that's why you end up with these irrational moments, these
right,
crazy, like why we got to put emotions in it, because you don't
right,
understand how emotions work because you've never
right,
conditioned your mind
right,
to
right,
function through your emotions, and we get caught up in that. You know, I jokingly I said to someone a few years back, I was like, "Yo, take your feelings out of this." And then I
right,
said it to them, and it dawned on me afterwards, like, "Okay, that was stupid. Like, how you gonna take your feelings out of this?
yeah, yeah,
Your
yeah,
feelings are what
yeah.
got you to this point.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you can't
and you
remove your
and
feelings."
you know you speak to a real confusion point
Yeah,
that we're conditioning men with because we will also say don't do nothing unless your heart is in it,
right.
but then we say take your emotions out
Take
of
the
it.
emotions out of it.
And when you are really conditioning a young male going through boyhood, transitioning into manhood with dichotomous messages like that, they have what we call in the industry a psychological split. They have a real identity crisis because if
Correct.
I
Correct.
associate being emotional with being unmanly or being a woman, even worse in their
In
mind,
their mind,
then I am going to avoid emotional intelligence. I'm going to avoid emotional literacy, emotional discernment, emotional vocabulary, emotional
right?
demonstration, emotional flexibility, and emotional strength, which are the 7 elements that make up emotional fitness. And so if I'm not emotionally fit, then I am emotionally unfit or emotionally sick, I like to say,
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
better word,
That's a
to
better
really
word.
show where we come. So we send two sets of messages to our young men and even to
Right.
ourselves, not even our sons and other brothers, but to
But even
ourselves, like
internally, we do.
we'll be like this. I've seen men really say this. Oh, they doing something with their children. They're like, all right, I don't want to be too soft now. Like, let me stop. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even want to show that kind of energy to our children And then, we see on the deathbed, children saying, "Hey, you were a good father to me, but
Right.
I didn't really ever feel connected to you as a person. You provided, you did whatever, you taught me principles, but I didn't feel the connection to you as a man." Our children are saying this on our deathbed, and we know our women saying it because
Because
they
they
say it
feeling
like
it on the daily.
this is the way they say it. I talked to the lawyer, and here's the divorce papers.
That's here's the grounds for the divorce. He's
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
emotionally he's not emotionally attached to me.
It's like it's like you come home like, what you smiling about? I went down to child support. And it's about to get real
This
for
is
you.
about to get real here.
You about
You
to
don't
show
want
some emotion
you
now.
don't want to listen to me? I got the way to get you emotionally attached.
You know what I'm saying? So
It's a shame though, bro. And we're justing about it and joking, but the reality of it is 90% of the women who end up in child support taking these dads is because they feel that there's no emotional attachment to them
yeah,
by the
yeah,
father.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's absolutely not because they don't think they can provide, because they
Yeah,
already been doing that.
they know you can provide. That's why they went to
Yeah,
with the child support.
that's right. That's
But the
right.
reality of it is that you're not. The reason why they ended up in that place is because for whatever reason, as a man, you did not show her an emotional attachment, a healthy emotional commitment to where her needs were,
Facts.
and we lose them.
Facts.
Yeah,
That's why whenever you trying to get them off, guess what you do? Show your emotion. Hey, listen, I bought you something,
I got you
and
a
like,
little
come on,
something, something.
let me come by. How you doing? And then if you need anything, you let me know. And you're like,
Right,
why you
right,
being so nice? Hey, I was just wondering if you could drop those arrears.
right, right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, we instinctively we know this, but practically we haven't mastered it, or like you said very well, in the fitness language, we haven't exercised these things to
Right.
have a certain level of proficiency with it. And so our women suffer, our children suffer, but ironically, nobody suffers more than we do by holding on to these limiting beliefs and what we do. We are actually increasing our own suffering by, this cultural lie that we have to realign and correct.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's good stuff. That's good stuff right there. As we like to always say, that's some real good nuggets that you just
Yeah,
dropped.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm gonna bounce back to because you were heading in a direction before I
Yeah.
stopped you that
Hmm.
I think is just as or is crucial in that process because I think some folks they tend to forget that every facet of our walk has some economic attachment.
Yeah.
So like and so in the area of men when it comes to dealing with our sexual struggles and impotency and erectile dysfunction, there's a dollar attached to that world.
Oh,
And
absolutely,
and the
absolutely.
corporate world is like, yo, hey, I got another pill for you to take,
Yeah,
or try
absolutely,
this cream or this ointment or drink this stuff here. And
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
in the midst of us not having conversations like this, we bite at everything that looks like it
Yeah,
might fix what we
yeah.
want fixed.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, as a therapist and as a man, I've tried some of those things.
Right.
And they're problematic for a lot of reasons.
In a
Number
lot of
one,
ways.
they're reactionary and not curative.
Hmm.
Number two, they're not holistic. So your body doesn't recognize them as
And it resisted.
something that God has made from the earth. The body is so in tune to nature that even when you go to another land, you may be in Mozambique or Italy or France or Namibia, and you pick up a fruit that you've never had before. When you eat it, your body registers that this is an organic
This is
entity,
foreign.
and so it aligns. But
Right.
when you take the blue pill or anything like
Any
that,
other thing, right?
it is forcing blood because your blood flow is limited, and that's because of the foods we eat. But
Right.
the foods we eat are a reaction of our emotions. So if you're eating crunchy foods, you're angry. If you're eating creamy foods and starchy foods, it's because you feel unloved. And these are the things that you
Mm.
can go down the line: salty foods, sugary food, all the way down the
All of
line.
it.
You can understand, and this is me, the therapist talking. you can understand what addiction or what it is that psychologically you're striving to rebalance. But what they're not telling you about this industry is now these are they're little pills, but they're super drugs.
Right. Right.
The kidney and the liver is their function is to filter all of this stuff out. When some men are taking those things daily or definitely weekly, and that's for the married men or to single men who got a hot date going, and then I want to perform at my best. I'm taking 3 or 4 of these things. Okay, boom. Now all the blood flows coming from your head and your feet, and it's going to the center, and your soldiers at attention. But after that, that foreign substance is now all through your organs, and so your kidneys and livers are working overtime, not to mention the damage that it does to prostates. So there is a direct linkage between the increase in prostate cancer and erectile dysfunction. And so this is the stuff that they're not telling you because, as you said, there is an industry. But when you go all the way back at the beginning from seed root causes, it's still emotional. So your dietary choices are coming from imbalanced emotions. The way you correct that is an imbalanced medicinal, and then it causes another effect. And you're going back and forth a cybernetic loop of I have emotions because I'm not performing. I'm eating the wrong foods in excess because I don't feel good, but I'm looking to feel ecstasy, so I'm overdosing on these things. But
so,
don't talk to me about no emotions because I'm not emotional. Right. It's absurd. It's absurd. It makes you do like this.
Right. Wait a minute.
Things that make you go, like, you know what I'm saying? So
it's definitely
you gotta really understand it.
The imbalance that we put ourselves in is damaging. And I think that's the piece that a lot of us don't realize. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Not that I would ever debate that because the facts are there.
Right.
The fact that we are, like you said, introducing a chemical into our bodies to cause our system to react differently than it was designed to act.
Right.
You know what I mean? And one of the things that we even talked about, and I think you alluded to a little bit, was, literally some of the factors that could help you through that process are more natural than anything.
Absolutely.
Eating the right foods, getting proper rest, making sure that you're minimizing your stressors.
That's right. Foreplay starting about 3 days before.
3 days before.
So if you a brother like most that got high activity, you stay in foreplay.
Right.
That's one of my friends said, he said, I get what you're saying, so I'm just supposed to stay in foreplay. That's it. I'm sure your wife,
because you know you.
Yeah. But you know what's so ironic about this whole paradigm that you're talking about is that it's all emotionally driven. The food, the everything, it's all emotionally driven. Absolutely. We want to be emotionally at peace. This is what we're calling for. And just learning the art and science of managing ourselves emotionally will give us everything that we're looking for. But the enemy has really demonized that as manhood. And you know me, I would be remiss to say this to not say this to Black men. This is why our cultural value system is so important, because we are measuring our manhood by someone else's cultural understanding of manhood. Your manhood is measured not by your morality and your connection to the divine, as it was in our culture. It's being measured by your material worth, your ability to provide financial and other kind of material resources. Now, we already know that's difficult if you set the game in a way where I can't get no material resources. So now I'm questioning my manhood. I'm oftentimes at odds within myself over a value system that's not even mine.
It's not even my system.
And so it's like we're working against ourselves, and that's why, along with all of the dynamics of our health and our emotional outpouring that will keep us balanced, So when it's time to focus on performing, nobody gonna knock it out the park like we are, knock it out the box. Nobody gonna knock it out the box like us. Every woman of every race knows that.
Right.
But when we're dealing with our divine reflection, we're so we're working against our own well-being so much that, as they say, we become I won't say our worst enemy, but we become our most active enemy.
Right, because we create our own obstacles in those moments.
Right, right.
We don't even like they don't need to put an obstacle in front of me because I'm now trying to meet your standards.
Right,
I've created obstacles that I'll never be able to pass or get by.
Never.
And that's exactly
and the real enemy now has programmed you to work against yourself. So he over here, doing his thing, and you like, oh, this, that, da, 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 da. And then somebody say, hi, daddy, I don't want to do no motion. Shut up. Everybody go to bed.
Go to bed. Leave me alone.
It's 2:00 in the afternoon. We got to go to bed.
Right. Or like some brothers will do, we'll leave.
Right.
We don't want to address it.
To get peace of mind and to relieve ourselves of that stress. And, we're laughing, but let me be clear. I am a clinical therapist, and I don't make light of those things because, depression, we see a rise in, an 8% rise in Black male suicide. Now, look, we were some of the last people to take our own.
Ever see us take our own lives.
But that is rising, and, there's a stark rise of it even happening in young male children, who in the many of them growing up in unmated homes, and the predominant custodial parent is the mother. Not all. I was a single parent at a time in my life, but most of those unmated homes are led by mothers, and they're doing an excellent job, but they're just not men. And so when the young boy is looking for modeling, is a psychological phenomenon that the story of the ugly duckling is about modeling. I was trying to be like y'all, and y'all not even on my level. Like we ain't
even in the same ballpark.
Yeah, and I'm actually a swan, but it took me to see a swan. And so that the metaphors and the story of that fairy tale or that legend is that you have to see someone who represents what you're becoming in order to understand it experientially. Like I can understand it logically, but it's like sex. You can tell me all day about what sex is and how it works, and until I actually have it, I don't have experiential knowledge. When I have the experience, then I'm going to come back with a whole different set of questions that you might not have even thought to offer to me, because you're trying to explain something to a person who has no reference. And this is what we're dealing with culture, and that's why it's intentional. It's not an accident, as we all know. That's a whole other story. But this is the depth that it happens. It really hurts us emotionally, and then a lot of brothers have to leave to cope with it. And I don't begrudge them because they're dealing with a tremendous amount of stress. Nobody is the most attacked person in the world is Black men. The most disrespected person in the world is Black women. Period. Point blank. Bottom line,
no doubt. So let me throw this next one out, because we've kind of bridged to it already, and we've kind of alluded. But so here's the next question that was put on the table. How does this being that inability to manage those emotional attachments, those emotional moments, how do they affect a man's ability to show up as a father, as a professional, as a spouse or partner, and ultimately just as a man in general? How does that affect us?
I'll give you a metaphor. Being emotionally unfit, one of the things that it kills is your creativity and your flexibility. Now, if we understand what creativity is, the function of creativity is to solve problems. Right. So it's not just to match your socks with your belt, or
it's not coordinating. It's not equate.
Not just to make a dope beat or paint a picture. What it is to express yourself in a multitude of ways. Psychologically, why is that important? Because you're going to see a multitude of looks from society. As we say in basketball, you know, if you are, today they use the term two-way player or three-way player, if you are a certain kind of player, you can deal with a zone defense, you could deal with a man-to-man. You could play against someone who's quicker than you, stronger than you, faster than you, and you may see all of that on one team. Right. So now to prepare for that, yeah, we watch tape and we run plays, but as you're doing your drills, you're working on changing speeds, you're working on a slow game, a back to forth game, you're working on a long range game, you're developing your creativity. But then in real time, you have to be flexible. So when somebody's at work pushing your buttons, your wife is calling, the children need to be picked up, they get home from school, they need something from you, your wife needs something from you, you're stressing over something going on, you didn't get any time to yourself, everybody wants to know how your day is, they're tugging and pulling, it's the same metaphor. You got to have a bunch of skill sets to be flexible and creative, or creative and flexible. Because oftentimes we put so much weight on ourselves that our creativity is present, but what we don't recognize a lot of times, our flexibility is, so we get so tunnel vision and rigid, I have to do this way by this time. When in reality, most things can be done a multitude of ways, and you usually have more time in some ways than you think you do, more latitude. Even if it's not more time, you have more latitude, meaning the bandwidth of how you could approach a thing. Okay, I got to do this thing. I got to make sure the wife is taken care of and the children get one-on-one time. So I'm going to put this one priority at the back burner. I'm going to do the thing for my wife now. I'm going to take the children with me and say, don't bring your phones. We won't turn on the radio. You and I are going to have a talk about the day on the way there.
Right.
Now, by the time we get to the wife, I have spent one-on-one time with you. I address her need first, and then she can take the child. Now I'll deal with that back burner thing. This is the kind of flexibility, but we can say, I set this to do first. So no, you can't ride with me, and I can't pick you up, and I got to deal with this. And we're inflexible. Not having emotional fitness, one of the pillars of it is emotional flexibility, as I said.
Right.
To be flexible in our approach and in our order of significance. And this is a skill that we need to develop that today we're not developing it. And so we become so rigid. In a household, it's usually dad that will explode quicker than mom. Because she has a bunch of flexibility. Well, hey, let's just do it this way. Okay, well, I'll do this. You go like
women multitask better than us.
I don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? And that's even that is a myth. We say that, but watch a point guard. I know Miles. Watch a point guard. He multitasking his behind off.
Right.
Because he's looking at the scores, the shooters, the outlets, he's reading the defense, he's trying to score, and he got to do that in 24 seconds. If you put a woman, a lot of times, and no disrespect to women point guards because they're amazing, but if a lot of times if you just pick the woman off the street and say, do this in 24 seconds, she will look like men look in some of those family situations because the conditioning is different. In our
and the expectation is different.
You were conditioned to be a father, a husband and a father, because we aren't a lot of times conditioned for that. And I know from having 3 sons and 3 daughters, and little girls are playing house with a whole family as children. A man just needs an action figure.
Right.
I don't
Give me the one.
Or no children. Just like who are the superheroes' children? They look at you like,
what? You ain't got no kids.
What are you talking about? But you look at a girl, she's already the Barbie doll or whatever doll she's using has a mommy, has a baby.
They got the house, they got the car.
So it's a social conditioning. It's not that men can't. Look at men walking through the neighborhood with their children. They looking at the dangers. Watch out for this. Yo, let's cross the street over here. Let's do this. You're multitasking. But you haven't been. That's a survival technique.
That's a powerful.
But when it comes to the house, you haven't been conditioned for husbandhood or fatherhood, and it's showing up. It's showing up in all the horrible statistics that we read. We see the proof is in the pudding with that. But we can definitely change that narrative.
And we must. We must change that narrative. Because I agree with you. I think that a lot of times we are, like you said, we're socially conditioned to operate in a way that completely goes against the grain of how we were created to react.
Right, our nature, right.
And so it is important. Like when you saw the video of me and my son, one of the things that I said to folks was one of the biggest pieces for me was being able to teach and help my sons develop critical thinking skills.
Right.
Because I wanted them to be able to process stuff even if I'm no longer here.
Right. That's right.
And that's important, even for all of us, to be able to understand how to use, like you said, that's speaking to the creativity that you mentioned earlier. We have to be able to be in a position to creatively discern how we navigate through life. And
absolutely.
If you don't have that, you find yourself falling into one of those boxes.
Absolutely.
That says, hey, this is how you're supposed to operate, even though it doesn't line up, match, or even feel right to you. In most occasions, you're lining up in that box because this is what they told me. I didn't have this change of mindset to help me understand that I don't have to be in that box. I can eliminate these walls and do what I need to do to make it work.
Absolutely. So, that's really profound. I salute you on that, because one of the most responsible things we can do for all of our children, but especially our sons, is to prepare them for life after our lives. And to have that conversation with them that look, sit them down. Look, one day I'm going to be dead, and I'm going to move from being in front of you to being inside of you. Correct. What do you want me to give you? Because I can now give it to you if I have it, go get it if I don't, or put the other people in front of you that can help you. But I'm going to give you the guiding morals and principles, and then the balance of critical thinking and holistic thought and emotional balance. Absolutely. And then, guide you in a direction with your morals and values and your culture in the center, your spiritual value system. Now you're going to see that A, even when I'm gone, I'm still with you. Mm-hmm. And B, you're prepared to be your version of the divinely God man, God king, that the creator gifted me as your father with, because we don't own our children. They are our gifts. Right. We're their gods. And when they get like 13, they tell you anyway. I don't like when kids go there.
Right. That's that age too. You be like,
yeah. Well, you got a few more years before you can. Then we tell them till you get there, just roll with it. You know what I mean?
This is the program, and you can't change it.
Yeah, this is the program I got. You know what I mean? It's no like 2% of it is up for debate. The other 98 is not.
Non-negotiable. Listen, man, I'm appreciating this conversation. Let me just say this.
Absolutely,
because I want to make sure that the folks who are watching understand. I know they're probably like, man, they didn't shifted the whole dialogue and the conversation to a whole nother place. But please understand that the meat that's on the table right now, it still equates to the original topic matter.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, if I'm not healthy, if I'm not operating in an emotional fit place, then my ability to perform in the bedroom with my significant other is going to always come up lacking. Right?
Yes.
If I'm worried about my children and their growth, their ability to get from point A to point B, that's on my mind. If it's in my mind and weighing on me, it's literally, I don't care how many blue pills I pop, it's going to be, directed in another way. And so we have to be mindful of the fact that the stuff that we're talking about with the being physically and mentally prepared and fit to do the things that we're supposed to do, being able to articulate to our significant other the struggles that we're having, the things that weigh on us, being smart about how we manage our time, making sure that we're clearing the path. Like, I mean, when we said it jokingly, but if it's a 3-day foreplay moment, then it is what it is.
Right.
You gotta
Right.
build up to a moment
Right.
because
That starts with just compliments, with
compliments.
notes, with with
Absolutely.
this, a text. I just was thinking about why I love you so much. And here's two reasons.
Here's right.
When we connect intimacy to sex, it's totally different. And I think, intimacy is the gateway to sex, because in a mutual relationship, there's no such thing as sex without intimacy.
Correct.
Right. So even if one person is making a request and the other person concedes,
Just
even though
complying.
they may not in the mood, the reason they do concede is because they're intimately bonded.
They're intimately
So,
connected to that person.
so we have to teach young men about intimacy, where we focus on sex. And even when we're at our peak is when women complain, because we hit our sexual peaks earlier, so they say, but that's not necessarily
That's not always true either.
We hit our physical peak earlier. We have learned to equate high sexual performance with intimacy until you talk to the people we're having sex with. And you ask this salient question: how many times in your sexual experience do you orgasm or climax? For the woman, for the man, that's like 9 out of 10, almost 10 out of 10.
Right.
For the woman, it's like 2 or 1 out of 10, because it's not just an acrobatic act where I'm beating you up all over the bedroom. Right. It is an emotional act.
That's right.
And so if we don't ever build the intimacy, now a woman could be flipping around with you for an hour and a half. And most men are never going to do that long. But for the sake of argument, you going around by herself, she comes to climax in national minutes is 7 minutes. So, and check this out. 4 of those minutes are mental. Yeah. The last 3 are actual physiological. So now when you look at the 3 minutes that we having sex anyway, as men, you should learn the art of creating a intimate, emotionally intimate apex. And then the physical apex can come off of ideas, because she can hit a climax on her own by thinking about something. She can't hit a climax with you for 6 years straight. And you doing every little trick.
Every trick under the book. Read a book, saw a movie, looked at all kinds of crazy stuff.
So my cousin told me to do this. It's like, your cousin is divorced and he ain't had a woman in 6 years.
He's single for a reason.
It's a reason that, he proven it don't work. So, these things are what we have to teach our sons, and these are the things we have to come to terms with ourselves. So all of this conditioning, it's really a repressive and masochistic conditioning that really isn't our culture. And I'm telling you, if you travel around the world, we're talking about your son possibly traveling all around the world.
Right.
Look at Black men from the rest of the world, but specifically, look at Black men in the islands, those that haven't been so oppressed. And I'm not talking about Jamaica and Haiti. Right. But look at people in various different places in Africa, especially the free nations that are not under the grip of colonialism. Men walk down the street, they're holding hands, they talk to you, they're expressive, they smile a lot. The Black men say to Black women, why y'all don't smile at us? Why y'all don't smile at each other?
Y'all not smiling.
You ain't smiling at each other for the same reason our women ain't smiling at each other.
Right.
This is we scared of you because you're upset, you're hurt, you're angry, you're bitter, you're nasty,
and because you're not able to, because we're not able to share or express why we're upset, angry. For women, it's like, I'm going to just avoid you.
That's right.
I'm gonna choose not to go down that path because I don't even know what's at that dark.
I do the same thing that most Black women do when I'm walking down the street and I see Black men. Let me get out of his way. Let me get out of his way, because I don't know what he might be dealing with. And I don't do it in a cowering way. I do it in an altruistic or benevolent way, because, brother, how you doing? First of all, I speak to you as I'm moving. But if you are stressed, I'm a fellow victim like you. I understand. So let me give you the space that I know you need, because if we bump each other the wrong way and we don't really know each other, this could be one of our lives, because the places that we do express emotion
sexuality, food, sports, and violence. Those are the places that we've been allowed to express emotion.
Right.
And I hear women clients all the time say he never communicates. Then we got the bedroom. This joke told me to do 25 things. Like I didn't even know you knew that word.
But you're absolutely correct. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that as we build these intimate relationships, we have to be mindful of the fact that it takes the effort, the energy to invest time in learning what makes that, like you said. I mean, there are some areas where men are programmed and conditioned to allow emotion out.
Yeah.
I mean, as a coach, I've said it a number of times. Son, I need to see some passion out of you.
That's right. That's
You know what I
right.
mean? Come on, man, get
That's
mad.
right.
Like
That's right.
we've invoked that out of folks in
Right.
sports or in
You can see a stoic grown man. If his team is on the goal line at Super Bowl, look at that emotion. Come on,
that.
man, come on. How
Listen,
you gonna run that
throw
prayer?
stuff across the room.
Yeah, the children, everybody be like, whoa, I never saw you like that, Dad.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's real, man.
So it's important for and even for my sisters who are watching and listening. I know that the stigma is that men don't talk and brothers don't share and that we don't communicate. That's a myth.
Yeah, that's absolutely a myth.
We do talk, we do communicate, we do share. The reality of it is that as a couple, we have to learn each other's language.
Absolutely.
And I think, and that's what's missing sometimes, because sisters communicate differently than we do. Doesn't mean that we don't. It's just that our communication language is different. And so it's important to take the time to get to know someone, to find out what their language is, so that you can have communication, so that you can talk. I just want to, like I'll say to folks, one of the reasons, and I'm gonna put this out there because we always pull the covers off. I had to learn this later in life that it was so, and even though I knew it, practicing what I know was like still two different worlds.
Yeah,
so learning to build a relationship with someone, absence of sex and that physical connection was important for me in the relationship I'm in currently. I literally had to say, no, I don't want to go there.
Right.
Who are you? What do you do? What do you like? Like there literally becomes a need. And unfortunately, you mentioned it earlier, for a lot of men, we get it later on because our maturity in some areas just, it don't click until we bumped our head about 9 times.
But
when you do get it, you realize, like, why am I always in these bad relationships? Well, you, excuse my expression, America, you lead your relationships with your dick. And so if that's the method of, hey, I'm physically attracted to her, she just turned me on, she hot, like, okay, what you're going to end up with is just a physical connection, not a relationship.
And,
so
and let me say, to the point that you made, I think it's so profound, and I hope the audience doesn't miss it. One of the reasons that we're learning late is because we're not being trained.
We're not trained.
Like the myth that we mature slower than others is absolutely,
we're last in the classroom.
Yeah, it's absolutely a myth. You know what I mean? So it's not that we mature slower, it's that we are not being trained properly. And so without
trained at all,
we're not going to show up as our natural selves or our optimal selves.
Correct.
And so that's what we have to understand, because as you said, men, they think, they act, they process, and then they emote. Women emote, they act, they process, and then they think. So if a woman is saying, I want you to feel this, that's the end of his process. If a man is saying, well, what do you think about something? That's the end of her process. So we're like the complement of each other, reversed onto each other. We have to understand that it's not just the language that we have to understand, it's the processing that's different. And it's complementary. It's not opposite, it's complementary. When I'm at one point, naturally, you're at the other extreme. So men have to talk feelings to women, and women have to talk thoughts to men. And we're doing just the opposite.
Yeah, that's right on point. I'm gonna pop this in. I'm we're gonna get to wrap this up, you do, because
Okay.
like I said, you and I'll be talking all night, and
Yes, yes, yes,
everybody else
yes,
can be
yes,
home in
yes,
bed.
yes.
But one of the listeners just asked the question, whose
Uh-huh.
fault is that? And that fact that men and women don't communicate well, or communicate differently, I should say, as I said before. Her question is, whose fault is that? And I agree with you, Carla. That's an honest question, because that's the surface question.
Right,
Like, we're always looking to point the finger. Well, who's at fault for that?
right.
I personally, I'll answer, and I don't know what you do. You can chime in as well.
Go ahead.
I
I'm
don't
gonna grab this.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
really look at it as a fault, like
Yeah, come
you're
on with it.
wrong or
That's
she's
what I'm
wrong.
gonna say.
I look at it as that it's just as you said. I think the processing that's been put in place through society has us in different places, or different
Absolutely.
mindsets. And
Now I
so,
just went in the dark.
uh-oh. So
I
as
just
long as
went in
you're
the
still
dark,
here
but
with
I'm
me.
still with you. I'm still with you.
So
Hold on. Technical difficulties.
you got it. You got it. You know, we got to be mindful, man. You and I are both about the same shade, man. You cut the lights off and we disappear.
Yeah. Hold
But
on.
But to your question, Carla, I think that the reality of it is that it's not so much that it's someone's fault, but it's really the fact that the messages that are being put out by society, by our parents, by whoever, is set by a set of standards that doesn't really meet what our needs are. And so
That's it.
it becomes important for us to understand who we are and how we operate, so that we can then start talking about how do we connect. And I think sometimes we forget to do that first step. We don't do let me figure out who Ned is. Let me find out what I like, what are my likes, my dislikes, what makes me work, who am I? And then I can start figuring out how to connect to someone. Well, I've heard someone say this, and this was, an old proverb from a pastor, the reason why sisters don't follow is because men don't know how to lead. And the reason why men don't know how to lead is because they've never been taught how to be leaders. And so when you haven't expressed or shared or taught me how to do a thing, but then you expect me to do it, I'm going to fail at it. And I think that's the struggle that we have going on in our society, is that there are a lot of brothers who are expected to do a thing, but have never been taught how to do it. And then we run into women in their beautiful selves who have been taught how to do it all of their lives. They've been taught how to be homemakers. They've been taught how to be a parent. They've been taught how to do the nurturing and the caring and the managing your emotions. And then you connect to this guy who has not been in the same class you've been in, but he's expected to be a valedictorian. It just doesn't make sense. And so for brothers, it's important for us to learn how to manage our stuff, figure us out, learn about who we are meant to be, our purpose in life, and then we connect to sisters who we can now properly lead, who we can properly share with, who we can emotionally share and join with, so that we can have healthy relationships. So I hope that answered that question. I see I lost my brother Edu. He's probably going to bounce back on in a minute. I'm going to take a couple of seconds because we're almost at the end of our session today. This has been some powerful conversation. I'm praying that somebody somewhere got some information that helped them, that opened up a door of conversation for them to be able to continue this kind of dialogue, even in their own homes. Or if you feel the need that you need more information and you want to reach out to us here at Royalty Mission Network, we are available on almost every platform possible. Know that you can always reach out to us if it's something that we can share to further the conversation. If it's conversation that stuff like this, we need to do another part to, we're receptive and open to all of that. So please, please, please share, let us know, so that we can continue these kind of dialogues, so that, again, our goal, our objective, our mission is always to help us heal. So I'm looking forward to doing more of the healing with you guys. My brother's back on with us.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. Right at the excellent question that the sister asked. I seems like you were going exactly where I was going, and I would say, as a therapist, what we talk about is a concept called blame/guilt versus responsibility. When we think that we are wrong, we feel guilty.
When we think our partner is wrong, we blame. But what we're saying is that my problem in the relationship is my wife's problem. Her problem is my problem. So where the problem starts is only the argument of people who don't have skills. So it's like, if I don't have a skill, then let me put some blame on somebody. If I had the skill to give a solution, it doesn't matter who started the problem. Imagine a parent coming home and said, who spilled the milk? Yeah, we want to know who spilled the milk, but at the end of the day, we got to clean up the milk. Or who didn't cook? If the children can't cook and they're hungry, that's your job, right? So in a relationship, the issue is not, it's emotionally immature. And I understand why we're that way, because we're all emotionally immature. What makes you emotionally immature is when you don't have your culture training you. So it makes all adults emotionally immature, and especially us as Black people, because again, we're living by somebody's value system, and we're living by the value system that attacks with blame. Something is wrong with you, so I have to steal you from your land and take your land and take you and da 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 da. It's a belief system that's sick. But if we take responsibility and we say, if you got a problem, that problem now is not just yours. I'm lending my skill set to you. The problem is that inherently we don't have skill sets. So we want that to be your issue. You know, I hear couples all the time saying that's your issue.
That's
right?
your stuff. That ain't mine. Yeah.
You came in this relationship with that. Well, what is the relationship worth if I came in the relationship with it, and now after being with you, I still got it?
Right.
What did you offer other than, because you think I don't know that that's my relationship issue before I met you? I know that.
Right.
So it's not to answer it succinctly, it's not about whose fault it is, because if I were being petty, the woman has a different fault than the man has, but they both have a fault. So the point is not whose fault it is, it's who's going to be responsible enough. Men learn about men's things, and they're taught about the science of relationship from a man's perspective. Their relationships would change if they would understand the psychology of women. Women do the same thing. They talk to their girlfriends who are women. They talk to their mothers who are women. And they're not really learning about men from the perspective of manhood. And this is problematic. If you're a woman and you're going to deal with men, you should be studying men, not the man that you're dealing with, but the psychology of men. It will help you understand your father, your son, your coworkers, everybody more. Same with men. If you're dealing with women or a woman, and some of us are dealing with women, but if you're dealing with a woman, you should understand the psychology and the makeup, the psychological makeup of women, because it's totally different than men. It's a lock and a key, literally. If you look at a lock and a key, they're nothing alike at all. In fact, if you never saw a lock and key work together, you wouldn't even equate them to things as being
connected.
Complements. They're not opposites. Men and women are not opposites. We're actually complements. The root word of opposites is oppose. And that's what's happening for us. We're opposing each other because there's a cultural value system saying that the war of the sexes, men versus women, this is an alien cultural concept that we have bought into. And if we're going to survive, we got to leave it alone.
I agree. So I know that Carla's responded and said, you know, she was, I guess, looking for a more specific answer. I think the best answer I can say to you, Carla, is that it's really the responsibility of, and I'm going to use your term of fault here, really the onus is on all of us.
Right.
Male, female, parents, churches, you know.
As a therapist, there's no way you can say whose fault it. There isn't a blanket.
There's not a blanket.
It's men's fault or women's fault. Now, if you believe that, you know, beliefs become real even when they're not true. So beliefs are guiding a lot of things that the way we behave. But there is no, now, if you ask me as a culturally based cultural person, clinician, I would say the fault is on white people who took your culture. And because they took your culture, you don't know how to show up in relationships anymore. And so because of that, you can't be effective. You have no efficacy when it comes to relationship. But in
Right.
any situation, it's not about fault, really. It's not about whose fault this is. It's like when you get in a car accident, yeah, from the insurance standpoint,
Somebody's got to point the finger.
Somebody's got to be at fault. But if your leg get broke and your eye comes out, your eye don't, like your body doesn't care whose fault it is. Now it has to adjust. And so in the relationship dynamic, we have been so conditioned to, if we can just point to whose problem this is, that will absolve me from responsibility. And that's actually what we're trying to do psychologically, because I would ask your caller this: if we could pin the fault onto one person, does that automatically make the other person skilled to deal with it?
Right.
No,
it doesn't. You're right.
So this proves that it's not about fault. It's about who is going to be responsible. That would be saying, like, if you got a family of 4 and one of the children gets cancer, whose fault is it? Now, you might could point the finger to something, but ultimately, we just want the child to live. And so we all have to take a responsibility to do our part to make that work. And that's the way we approach our children, because we have a built-in unconditional love for them. But with our spouses, we have this other kind of energy where it's so conditional. Even though we stand up there and say, there ain't going to be no conditions through sickness and health. It's a lot of conditions, really, in our belief system, because it's not our words, but it's our belief system that guides our behavior. So to a person who wants to assign fault, they don't like the answer that it ain't nobody's fault. I've had clients say in a session, you letting him or her get off the hook. And we say, oh, you want us to you want us to blame them? Yes. They say, yes, I want them to feel the blame. I want them. And then we say, okay, let's give them all the blame. How does that improve your skill? It doesn't. I just want to be the king of the petty people. I want to be less responsible for the problem than you are. But then I turn to them and say this: if you had the skill to actually fix this, would you not fix it because your partner doesn't know what you know? Would you say, I'm not going to fix? That's like having sex and saying, I'm not going to have sex with you because you don't have what I have. That's the point.
Right.
We're compliments. You're not supposed to have what I have. I'm giving you something that you can't give me, and you're giving me something that I can't give myself. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully, forgive me if that doesn't answer it, but
and I think
that's my answer.
Right. No, I appreciate it. And I do. I think that the question that she put on the table is in a different direction somewhat. And I hear she reworded it, and I got you, Carla. I hear you. Here's what I'm going to do, because for the benefit of time, like I said, I don't want to have us on here for till midnight. But I do want you back on, bro.
Absolutely. I would love to come back with my wife, and you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
I see her name up here, but her face ain't.
So my thoughts is that we definitely need to revisit. This is a conversation, and this is the beginning of a conversation that, as we stated in the beginning, in order for us to change the narrative, it isn't going to happen with one conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. No.
And so
I'm a therapist. That's why we don't do one sessions. We do free consultations for anybody.
You ain't get one session.
So Carla, come on and get a free consultation. We'll chop it up 8 ways to December. But we in December.
Ain't that crazy?
But for therapeutic change, to get one session is like going to the gym one time or eating one healthy meal or whatever.
I think it's going to change everything.
It doesn't change. It doesn't change a lot.
It takes some in-depth dialogue,
but it doesn't change your situation.
Yep. So I'm going to say this, and again, I appreciate you, Carla. I appreciate all those folks who are on, watching and listening, and who shared today. Listen, this is a conversation that we are definitely going to be dealing with for a long time. I've dedicated this platform to talk about men and intimacy and intimacy areas for the month of December. I'm looking forward to finishing this conversation in a way that kind of helps continue to bridge the gap for a lot of people who have questions, but also bring healing to a lot of folks who have questions. And so we're going to revisit this. I'm so grateful for my brother for being on, man, and taking the
Yes,
time,
yes,
man,
yes,
to just
man.
break bread today. I hope
Yes,
some folks got fed, because we
yes.
definitely were at the dinner table.
I'm honored to be here. I will be back whenever you call for me. And anybody who needs any further
I was going to
support,
say that.
again, we
Please.
do free consultations, and you got to hear my wife's response to every piece, because the male and the female psychology is totally different.
It's
So
different. It's different.
even as two therapists, sometimes our approach is different. But I'm just honored. I uplift you. I salute you for what you're doing. And I support it 100%. So anytime you need me, I'm available.
Awesome. Real quick, bro, give everybody an opportunity. How can they get in touch with you and the missus?
Okay.
What's the best way to
So
reach you if they have
our name
need?
is Acoma House Initiative. You're gonna have to look it up, but I can spell it. It's AKOMA, which is the word that we're calling the heart is the Acoma. That's a whole nother conversation. House, HOUSE, Initiative, INITIATIVE.com. You could go to that, see our work, what we've done, how we've been featured around the world. And there's a link there for you to schedule for a free strategy session where we don't give advice. We give you strategy, a real concrete plan, like a person like Carla. We don't want to just say something that you don't accept. We want to give you the strategy that's going to really get you to where you want to be. So you could go to Acoma House Initiative. If you can't remember that, just look up Monsho Edu, Google me, or Acoma Day, anything. We come up, soon as you do it. But we definitely have the website, www.acomahouseiniative.com. We have the Black Love School. Any of those keywords, if you Google them, I'll send it to you, Ned, so that anybody who wants a link, they could click it. You could forward it to them, and they could click it. But yeah, you can find us a myriad of ways out there.
Got you. So listen, I appreciate everybody. I do know that this conversation is not over. I know that there are conversations or questions, I should say, that we didn't get a chance to respond to, or we didn't respond to accurately enough.
Right.
Know that your question is not going to be muted. We are definitely going to address it. We're going to conversate. We're going to make sure that you get answers to the best of our ability. Again, if you have any need to reach us at Royalty Ministry Network, you can get us via our Facebook page. You can go on our YouTube page. You can get us on TikTok. There's Instagram. We are on almost every media platform, social media platform that's out, because we want to make sure that we are reaching the people who are in need of the healing. Again, I said this earlier in the day, in the beginning, there are some initiatives that we got coming up in the new year. The DIY Man is definitely something that you want to be a part of. For my brothers, we're going to really put on our tool belts and start working on how do we heal ourselves. For our sisters, we are bringing to the table, we have barbershop conversations, but we're going to bring the beauty shop to the table for some of our sisters. So you'll get a chance to continue your healing process as the sisters come together and work through their stuffs. And then we also have our journey through our initiative where we're looking to help those folks who are trying to build their brand, build their entrepreneurial skills, build their business. We're going to take you through a process that is a hand-to-hand connecting, walking you through the steps so that we are helping you not only heal emotionally, spiritually, but economically, getting yourselves grounded. So we're looking at all of that. Intergenerational wealth, bro. You got it. You know the deal. So with that, listen, I'm thankful. I am grateful. I am humbled by not only my brother being with me, but all of you taking the time out to just watch and listen, and know that the next time we come together, you will know this, if nothing else, you are loved without a doubt. And there's nothing you can do about it, because I'm going to love you whether you love me back. All right. Peace to everybody. Love you. Take care.
Peace.